Okay, this is part 2 of repairing the four-wheel drive light on this 2014 Mazda CX-9. In this video, I will be repairing the wires for the coupling unit that attaches to the rear differential. And once again, all of the resources and links where I did my research can be found in the description below. Alright, well you can see here that I've purchased some primary wire that is 14 gauge, which matches the diameter of the existing wire to the coupling unit. You can see there that it looks a different size, but really that's just because there's more insulation around the one that I chose. In terms of the actual diameter of the wire, it's 14 gauge. Alright, now I couldn't figure out how to remove the solenoid from the coupling unit, so it's kind of close working tight in there, but I managed to do it. Right now what I'm doing is stripping, clean cutting and stripping the wire of the sheathing so that I can solder the new wire to that, create a better connection. And this might be a good time to mention that I probably could have used just some crimp quick connect electrical wires, and in retrospect I probably should have, but I saw somebody solder this and figured that it was a good opportunity to learn. What I'm doing now is making sure that there isn't any corrosion still left in there, brushing it all out, and I will use some dielectric grease later on to make sure that that it can make a clean connection. Alright, I'm now going to take the new primary wire and prepare it just like I did the old wire by clean cutting and stripping away the sheathing about the same distance to exposed wire as already exists there. And then I'm going to fan that out as well. You can see a link in the description below about where I learned to do this style of soldering, though I'm not nearly as good as what you can see in that video. And this is some acid-based flux that came with the soldering kit that I purchased from Harbor Freight specifically for this job. And we'll use that to ensure a good connection. Okay, we're just about ready to solder, so taking the new primary wire and measuring out about 10 inches. We're going to prep that by taking it, splaying the ends, and then dipping it in the flux to ensure that good connection. Then we're going to twist these together, the two sets of exposed wire. Once again, take a look in the bottom in the description for a link to a YouTube channel of how to do a great soldering job. I am by no means an expert. Okay, so I've put that tinfoil shield up, not because I'm worried about the heat from the soldering gun affecting the rear differential coupling unit, but I don't want any of the solder to drip into the mechanism. So I've put that tinfoil up there to prevent that. I've got the wet sponge. The wires that have been exposed have been covered in flux. I am now tinning the soldering iron tip, which apparently is what you're supposed to do. And as soon as it gets hot, I will be ready. Oh, there you go. Make sure you clean off the end of the tip on the wet sponge. And again, making sure that there's some tinning going on the end of the soldering iron. We will then go ahead and begin to solder our two wires together. Once again, please look into the description underneath for a better instructional on how to do this. The magic of movies and television means that we are done with the first solder. Taking a look, it isn't pretty, but it is solid. The solder's gone all the way through, and they are permanently connected. I'm going to use these needle nose pliers to crush down any burrs that exist there because I don't want them to tear the shrink wrap, the heat shrink wrap that I'm going to put on later on. Okay, it is now time to do the second solder of the other wire coming out of the coupling unit. So Let's strip that and prepare that. The magic of movies again. I'm now going to take this dielectric grease and I'm going to put this on both soldering points. And what this is going to do is both help the electricity flow, but also prevent any moisture from getting in there. Once I've put that on there, I'm going to be sliding on this heat shrink wrap. Now you want to make sure that you find a diameter that fits just over what you have. The shrink wrap shrinks down to half the size, so you want to make sure that it is going to be tight. Once you have it on there, you bring the heat gun and you start from the middle, and it will force that dielectric grease out each end, which is a great thing, ensuring a good connection and that it is watertight to prevent that corrosion from happening again. You can see this one's going to be really close to the bell housing, but I'll show you what I do in terms of that next. So there are now two soldered wires coming from that solenoid inside of the differential, the coupling unit. Here you can see I'm holding the rubber gasket that sits in the bell housing between the rear differential and the coupling unit. Both these wires need to come through that gasket, but since I've made the repairs, their gauge is too large. So I'm going to need to drill out the holes of this rubber gasket in order for it to all fit. I'm not going to do that on screen, but I will show you a trick after I'm done drilling those holes to a slightly larger diameter. Okay, I've drilled the holes and I covered the wires, specifically where I did the repairs, in the dielectric grease again. This allows the wires to slip through the two holes in the gasket so that the gasket will get all the way up to the bell housing where it needs to go. Again, it's still a tight fit, but with a little bit of grease, you're able to slide it all the way through. Okay, let's see where we are. Here you can see the solenoid, that's the silver piece I'm pointing to down here, inside of the coupling unit. And you can see some of the blue of the heat shrink wrap inside of there. And then both those wires go through the gasket and they come outside. The only thing we really need to do now is to take these two wires and solder them to the quick connect, which is right here. I've got it labeled. And so once those are soldered up, it should be able to be plugged right back in. Okay, I made a small mistake and I didn't put a piece of shrink wrap back down along the wire before I soldered it together and to the quick connect end, and because of that I had to just wrap it really well in electrical tape. This obviously will not hold as well, but I did cover it in dielectric grease and wrapped it up as best I could. It's also going inside of another plastic protection that I will also wrap in electrical tape, so I hope that will hold. So here we are. Everything is back together now. Let me get this in focus and spin the entire unit so that you can see. You can see here again that the gasket's in, the wires are going through there. Everything is soldered up and all the way to the quick connect. So really all we need to do now is to prepare the coupling unit for reinstallation, but the actual electrical repair is completed. So now it's time to move on to the gasket.
Okay, I have prepped the entire outside with this Permatex gasket remover. So I'm going to be going around all along here and cleaning off all the old gasket and using a plastic razor blade as well to get in there and cut everything out. Be doing that both here and underneath the car as well. So to make the gasket, I am going to be using the Right Stuff by Permatex. I'm showing you now because once I put it on there, I'm going to have the camera set up, but I have to work quickly. Based on everything that we read, I'm going to go all the way around the inner part of this ring and around each of the bolt holes. And once I have that on there, I'm going to be moving quickly to put the coupling unit back onto the rear differential. I already have all the bolts laid out in the pattern you saw before underneath the car, and we'll have the impact driver to send them home quickly, and then we'll use a torque wrench to get them right.
And that is the end of the second video. The repair is completed in terms of the electrical component. At this point, it's just about reinstallation. So please take a look at the third video to see how that's done, including some tricks that would make removing it easier too. Thanks for watching.